Grady Jarrett is the only current Falcons legendary enough to make the cut, and we'll explain why on another Falcons Historian Player Shootout.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to another illustrious episode of the Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So if you don't know me, I'm your very humble host, Aaron Freeman. Been covering the Falcons for too many years, formerly at FalcFans.com, RIP, still going strong as the humble host of this illustrious podcast. You may know me as Sirius Black, a.k.a. Mr. Drew, a.k.a. the Jolly Green Giant, a.k.a. Mr. a.k.a. And I thank each and every one of you that makes this illustrious podcast your first listen or first watch of the day. Shout out to you, the everydayers out there. And all you got to do to become an everydayer, subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So today's episode is another Falcons Historian Player Shootout, our summer-long trivia tournament, where we discuss a Falcons legend from the past 20 years. Myself, the host and co-host, Alan Stirk of the Falcoholic, and today's Falcons legend is a living legend in the sense that it is Grady Jarrett, who is the only player to qualify that is an active current member of the Atlanta Falcons. And the two folks on the hot seat are two folks from the Falcoholic. They are Kevin Knight and Gina Kelly, and they will be answering Alan and my trivia questions on Grady Jarrett. So without further ado, let's jump into that right now. For all of you, welcome to the show. Alan, starting off, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm feeling fantastic. When we were putting together the list of players, we were trying to get some defensive players on here because, as you know, with the Falcons and defense don't quite mix. So we had Keon Neal the last episode. Now we have Grady Jarrett. We have one of Aaron's favorites coming up, Jonathan Babineau. He's just counting down the days till we do that Jonathan Babineau episode. That might be 45 minutes. Who knows? But, we got Grady Jarrett now, one of our favorites. And I want to kick the Gina first because, Gina, you've actually interviewed Grady Jarrett.
Oh, yes.
What was that experience like? And talk about all the love you have for Grady Jarrett as a player.
So I've interviewed him a lot because when Grady was first drafted, I was pretty new on the Falcons beat and I was, there every day. But my favorite interviews with Grady have always been around his involvement with Rally on the Runway. It's a nonprofit based here in Atlanta, but they have expanded pretty much nationwide. And they raise money for child cancer research and supporting families who are fighting that disease. And so those have always been my favorite interviews with him because in addition to being relentless and a star on the field, off the field, he's really about the same. I mean, he is relentless about doing good and he is just really a spectacular person.
Okay.
Kevin, I know you've been deep in the draft for several years now. Looking back in 2015, were you into the draft at that time, and what did you make of Falcons when they selected him?
Yeah, I mean, I was into it. I started I think my Twitter was started in 2014, so it was still very much casual. I started at the Falcoholic in 2016, but I remember thinking that he should have gone earlier, but not fully understanding the level of steal they were going to get. Obviously, at that point, I don't think many people did. But just being like, oh, yeah, I like him. Obviously, you like the bloodlines and everything. And it was an exciting pick. So, yeah, I was a big fan of the pick at the time. I didn't have a draft board, I believe, or anything like that. So I couldn't say I ranked him here. And, the consensus was wrong. And I wish I could have really great, long-term draft takes like that from 2015 so I could really have the receipts to wave around. But I don't, sadly. But I did like the pick. I thought it was definitely good value, but I don't think anyone really realized how good the value would turn out to be by the time we're sitting here today where he's still playing. So,
do you share the same opinion, Aaron?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when we got him in the 5th round, I was like, yeah, he's like a 3rd round guy. We got a nice steal here. And I know there were other people that were like, no, this is one of the 40 or 50 best players in this draft class. And I think probably if you went back and redid that draft, you'd probably think that he's probably one of the 10 best players in that draft class. So, as Kevin said, you figured the Falcons got a steal, but you didn't realize how big a steal the Falcons got until many, many years later. And we'll watch Grady Jarrett. And that's the beauty of Grady Jarrett. those first like 4 or 5 years in the NFL, he got better year after year. Like he barely played his rookie year, and it was like, okay, like the flashes are good. Then he became a starter his second year, and then he was like solid that year, and then he really went off in the Super Bowl. And then, you know, the next year he just kind of picked up where he left off and just kept building and building. And then, you know, we got to the point where it was time to pay Grady Jarrett. I guess that was like 2019 or so. And, you know, as always, when it comes to players getting paid, you know, you always get that weirdo coming out of the woodwork, be like, you know what, I don't think he's actually worth the money. It's like, all right, calm down, my guy. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. But like, you know, Grady, I just remember like such a debate that summer was like, is he worth Fletcher Cox money or whatever? And it's like, yes, he was. If you thought the answer was no, and I like at the time I was like, yeah, I don't know if he's worth it, but what else are the Falcons going to do? Are they going to let him walk because it's like the only good thing they have on their D line? And so, yeah, basically all that to say is just like Grady, anytime you've doubted Grady, he's always sort of come through and exceeded expectations. And, you know, what else can you ask for, you know, watching a football player each and every Sunday?
Yeah, I think that's incredibly well said. And he's just like a human highlight reel. Like, okay, he doesn't have the gaudy stat numbers, but there's at least 3 to 4 times a game, like at his peak, where he just burst through that A gap and just wreck a running play. And that was always my favorite thing, because he has that get off that we always talked about. And I just think over the years, given how bad the Falcons' defensive line is, he's really had to play in a multitude of different roles, whether it be at times he had to play off the edge. He's even had to play nose tackle at times. He just ultimately, it's just wherever they had to fit him in just to play a role, he's done it. And I think that's just very admirable, because, you know, defensive players, they feel a certain type of way. And the fact that he has that, not just longevity, but that stardom and still wants to contribute and make that sacrifice, you got to commend him for that. So he's definitely one of those Falcons that you have to be grateful for, because, you know, we're getting close to a decade of him on the team. And besides this past year, he's pretty much played, every game. So, yeah, nothing but love here. And I just think, wow, 5th-round picks. Gina, does it make you think differently about 5th-round picks now after seeing what Grady's achieved?
I mean, you always have the potential to see a 5th-rounder or a later-round guy succeed like this. I think that I'm not stunned that Grady has done it just because he is such a dominant player. And, you know, I don't think that his size has ever really been much of a hindrance to him in the game. But, you know, of course, 6th-rounders like Tom Brady can, you know, come in and do what he did. So it can happen to anybody.
Aaron, do you have any, like, in terms of games or memories? I know we can't go too in detail because obviously we have the quiz coming up. But I don't know, was there a moment that made you realize, whether it would be like 2016, 27, that, wow, okay, Grady Jarrett's here?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I guess for me, it was probably 2017 where it was like, oh, like, this is different. And then I can't remember if it was a specific game, but there was like a stretch of games. I just remember when I was going back and watching the film and charting those games where like he was just getting multiple TFLs and multiple stops and just basically being this true disruptive player. And I just remember it was around that time, because I remember, you know, anybody who knows me knows like I'm a big Jonathan Babineau fan, as Alan alluded to. And for years and years, there was always like some up and coming D tackle that Falcon fans were like, he's going to be better than Jonathan Babineau. And I remember Corey Peters was that guy for a couple of years. And I was always like, no, he's not. And there was a moment in 2017 where like, it was like Babs was gone. He was retired. And I was watching Grady Jarrett and I'm like, yeah, he's going to be the one that is going to be better than Jonathan Babineau. And I don't, again, can't pick a specific game, but it was at some point in 2017 where I think that was the case.
Well, I mentioned this is a pro Corey Peters podcast. Aaron, if you wanted to think of a better example in terms of a player that was overly hyped that didn't quite live up to expectations, I would have said Rashid Hageman. But that's another one. That's another one. Because I remember that, you know, the measurables with Rashid Hageman, not the sense of Rashid Hageman pods, but I remember that those measurables, and he had about 3 good games, and people were just like, oh, he's the next guy. I'm just like, we need a legitimate stretch of performances.
Corey Peters was good. I want to make that clear. Corey Peters was good. It just wasn't that enough. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Kevin, is there any moments, I don't know, in the past maybe few years that made you, I guess, have an extra appreciation for Grady? Because as you know, from about 2018 to current day Falcons. He's been kind of a one-man wrecking crew.
Yeah, I mean, he's been the core of a defensive line with like almost nothing else on it for so long, which is why it was so tragic to see him miss most of last season when they finally surrounded him with like other guys. They got him David Onyemata, and the two of them together, it was like, wow, this is what we could have had, for his entire career. Like if he'd just gotten one other defensive tackle to put next to him, maybe this is what we could have had all this time. And just dominance. And you certainly look back, obviously his coming out party was really the Super Bowl. It feels like that was like a turning point in his career where it was like, oh, he's here. Okay. Oh, he's doing this. Oh, okay. I was not expecting that. And then it seemed like from that time on, he had just established himself as like, this is the alpha guy on the Falcons defensive line. And he never really relinquished that title, even until today, and maybe in 2023, you're talking about maybe he was upstaged by Onyemata because, he missed time and Onyemata was also really good. But I think the consistency and the longevity with Jarrett, I only own 2 Falcons jerseys right now. I own my Julio red jersey from the previous jersey style. And this is the only new jersey I own. And it's like, I get guys that I know are going to be on the team and they're not going to make me ashamed to wear the jersey. So Jarrett was an easy choice for this because I knew he'd be here and be kicking ass for many years. So still kicking. And I expect that he will continue to do so in at least 2024, hopefully longer.
So with the jerseys, because the jerseys are always dicey. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a dangerous game. Yeah.
I got D'Angelo Hall jersey in August 2007, and by February, I was just looking at it. So yeah, you got to pinpoint who is really here. I think 4 or 5 years and then make that decision. So
yeah.
For that.
Speaking of 2024, I'm just curious what you guys expect from Grady Jarrett this upcoming season. Gina, you can go first.
I actually haven't seen anything about where he is in his recovery, so it's hard for me to say that without knowing if he's fully healthy. But if he is, I know that Grady's going to come out, with an even bigger chip on his shoulder after having to miss time last year. If I were opposing offenses, I would not be looking forward to facing him this season.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the latest I heard on his timeline was that he's planning to be back for training camp. They were talking about him maybe playing towards the end of mandatory mini camp, but I don't really think that they were interested in getting him out there for one practice. So hopefully if he does come back for training camp, that'll mean that he'll be, ramping up for the season. We'll see if he's playing his full complement of snaps to start the year. But either way, I mean, I think him and David Onyemata are still going to be the top 2 guys. And they do seem to have the depth behind them now where they don't necessarily need Grady Jarrett to play 70% of the snaps on the interior, which is way too much. Let's be honest, it's way too much for any interior defensive lineman to be playing. And he still crushed it. So, I think if we can get him down to 50, him and Onyemata playing closer to 50, 60 maybe, where they can really just maximize their talents. I think they're going to try to save Grady Jarrett for the high impact situations, the third downs, the clutch drives, the end of half, end of game situations, 2-minute drills, and try to get, some of the dirty work given to these young guys, Brandon Dorlus, Ruka Rororo, you get out there on 1st and 2nd down and do some work. And we're going to let Grady Jarrett maybe play a little bit more of the third down stuff. But I still think he's going to be, if not the number 1 most productive interior guy, probably at least number 2, even if he's not fully healthy. So.
Yeah, I think that's true. Alan, any other things you want to say before we get into the Q&A portion of today's episode?
Oh, let's do it. It's quiz time.
All right, guys. Well, we'll be coming back, and Alan will be asking 5 questions to Kevin about Grady Jarrett, and then I will ask Gina 5 questions, and then we'll see who has the most. And if it's a tie, we'll go to sudden death, and we'll cross that bridge if and when we get to it as we continue today's Locked On Falcons Historian Player Shootout on Grady Jarrett. Passion, drive, patience. It is the formula for winning championships and is also what's going to keep your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. I know this because I got my seatbelt covers in order, and they're coming in the next week or two. And, you know, the thing I love about it is I know with eBay Motors, I'm burning rubber, not cash, baby. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car an MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. Alan, you have the floor.
Okay, Kev. First question. Which season did Jarrett have his most career tackles for a loss?
2017. I think it was 2017. Yeah, because you said tackles for loss, not sacks, right?
Correct. Tackles for loss.
Yeah, 2017.
That's correct. Which 2 seasons did he make the Pro Bowl?
Yeah, because I know he was All-Pro, second team All-Pro in 2019. So I believe that was one of the Pro Bowls, and then I think it was back to back. I think it was 2019 and 2020 that were the 2 years he made the Pro Bowl.
That's correct, man. Champ is starting strong. There we go. Which NFC opponent did Jarrett produce his first career sack against?
This is one of the things I actually looked up when doing my research. So, yes, his first sack was against the Bucs in 2015.
I always love when a guest says,
"Yeah,
their homework, they watched it. Good job."
I was like, "Oh, I think this might be one." I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm feeling this one. I should actually look that one up."
So. And prepare like it was SATs. Question 4: Jarrett produced 2 multi-sack games in 2018, leading to 2 victories. Name both the teams he did against.
2018. I know. So one of the things I looked up was his honors, and I know in 2018 he did have a big game against Arizona. And I think there were multiple sacks in that one. So I think that was one. But he had 2 games with 2 sacks.
There were victories, and the Falcons.
They were both victories.
Yeah, and the Falcons didn't win many games in 2018.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, that does narrow it down slightly. Yeah. Let's see. Victories in 2018. I try to forget that season as much as possible. That was a disappointing year.
Half the defense injured by like week 4.
Right, yeah. Maybe like Washington would be the other one. I don't know.
So you go into Washington, Arizona?
Yeah.
It was Cardinals and the Giants.
Ah, yeah. I didn't even. They played the Giants that year?
That Monday night game that everyone would like to forget. Probably one of the more miserable Monday night games.
Wasn't that Italian Ice kick in the game winner?
Oh, man. That was a Giorgio Tavecchio game. Oh, no. Yeah, no. I blocked that one out from memory for sure.
I was at that game and I don't remember it.
Oh.
That was a tough one. That was really
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I think they're like on a 4-game losing streak, but just the fact they're on prime time, you know, the Falcons at prime time, it's just like, oh no! So, you know,
it's always magical.
We used to saying, don't embarrass us, you know. But they made
That's
it
why when people are excited about the multiple primetime games this season, I'm just like, you haven't been a Falcon fan yet.
Be careful what you wish for. Yeah.
But go ahead, Alan.
Final question: Jarrett ranks 6th in franchise history at sacks. Name 4 of the 5 players that are currently ahead of him.
Oh, man. Okay. This is a tough one. I imagine, obviously, John Abraham is probably ahead of him. Probably Patrick Kearney. Maybe Babineau would be a third one. I didn't do enough, like, deep history. I don't know. There's not a lot of, like, super-duper high sack players in Falcons history. I just got to come up with a name so I don't embarrass myself. Just like some actual Falcon that's like somewhere on the top 10.
That you know
Tyler Sparr.
That you know didn't play the last 10 years.
Right, exactly. Let's see.
Tyler Starr had 50 sacks in our hearts.
I was like, it better not be Tyler Starr. Yeah.
I was trying to throw you off as your opponent, but
yeah. Let's see. I feel like I'm forgetting someone like super obvious. Who have I not mentioned? Oh, maybe like who is it? Claude Humphrey. Yeah. I was like, wait, there's somebody really obvious I'm not thinking of. Yeah, maybe Claude Humphrey. I think he's number one, so that would be embarrassing if I forgot him.
So you're going Abraham, Patrick Kearney, Jonathan Babineau, and Claude Humphrey?
Yeah.
Okay. You're incorrect. It's John Abraham, Chuck Smith, Patrick Kearney, Travis Hall, and still somehow, I was shocked to see this, Vic Beasley.
Oh, Beasley's in there? Wow.
That
I was actually thinking of that. Yeah, I was like, wait, I feel like he had that 15 and a half years, so that might actually wow, that's funny.
It might hurt the heart a little bit that Vic Beasley's still ahead of Grady Jarrett after all these years, but that's life has that edge rusher, I guess.
Yeah, that's
3 out of 5. That's a decent Kevin. You didn't quite hit the championship standards, but
right.
Solid.
I know it was a tough act to follow. So
okay, well, that means we will be putting Gina on the hot seat to wrap up today's Falcons History Shootout, and we'll get right into that to wrap up today's Locked On Falcons. Now, summertime is great for a lot of things, but not always when it comes to sports, right? The NHL players are over, right? The NBA draft is now wrapped up, and we're getting fewer and fewer games. Baseball's still going strong, but FanDuel's trying to do their best to keep the party going all summer long. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. Did you make any money off of the Hawks' #1 draft pick? Did you put your money on Sarr or Klingon or Ricochet? I don't know who the pick is, but you do because you got some money in your pocket. And if you want to get that extra money in your pocket, or you want to bet now on the upcoming NFL season or the Braves as they sort of get their season back on track, all you got to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and you can make the most out of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, Gina, are you ready?
I am as ready as I'm going to be.
Okay. #1, Grady Jarrett's first career multi-sack game came when he had 3 sacks against this opponent during the 2016 postseason.
Oh, it was the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 51, and he tied an NFL record.
I figured I'd trip you up because that game doesn't exist, and so
yeah.
I forgot.
Good one. Yeah.
I actually wrote about that quite a bit, so that one I knew for sure.
Yeah. This made-up game that never happened. #2, everybody knows that Grady Jarrett's father is former Falcon linebacker Jesse Tuggle, but he arguably has a closer relationship with this former All-Pro linebacker, who he calls Uncle, and he has known since he was 5 years old. Who is that linebacker?
I think it's Ray Lewis.
That is correct.
Oh, okay, great. Good for me.
Yeah. That is one of the ones I looked up also.
That is not one that I looked up, so I am very, very proud of myself.
That's good, yeah.
#3, Grady Jarrett sacked this former Bucs quarterback 6 times, the most of any individual quarterback in his NFL career. Can you name that quarterback?
Thomas Patrick Edward Brady.
Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
That is incorrect. It is Jameis Winston.
Jameis. Oh, really?
Famous Jameis.
I would have said Brady.
Brady was second on the list 5 times.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking the 3-sack game, and then I was like, there's got to be 3 other times in there.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, one of those did not count. But...
I know. Yeah, that was just what I was thinking. Ugh.
Well, speaking of that, #4, Grady Jarrett's infamous roughing the passer penalty against the Bucs in Week 5 of 2022 prevented the Falcons from getting the ball back with 3 minutes to go in their bid to make a comeback down 3 scores. What was the final score of that game?
Now, this is something that I have actually tried to block out, so I have no idea.
The exact score.
Okay, so yeah. Let's say, like, I can't even do this math. I didn't know that there was going to be math.
Yeah, this is a real difficult one.
28-3.
You bring down the hammer on him for that question.
Is that your final answer, Gina?
It's gonna have to be.
The final score of that game was 21-15.
Okay. No wonder I forgot.
All right. Final question, Gina. You need to get this one right so to send it into overtime. Sudden death. All right. Since 2019, Grady Jarrett has recorded at least a half sack in every Falcons season opener except for one. Which season was that exception?
So I know in 2019 he did. I have no idea. Wow, this is so in the weeds. I'm going to say 2020.
2020? Is that your final answer?
Sure.
Okay. Unfortunately, no. He did record a sack in the season opener against
Seattle.
Seattle, thank you. 1.5 sacks in that game, in fact. It was 2021 against the Eagles, where pretty much nothing went right in that game.
Probably the worst opener ever.
Yeah. So,
well,
unfortunately, Gina, you were this close. Almost got the upset. You know, you threw up that last shot at the last second, and unfortunately, it clanged off the rim, and time ran out. But it was a valiant effort, Gina. I think you did a great job. Kevin, of course,
thank you.
You triumph and go to the next round. Alan, tell him what he's won.
You'll be facing David Shealy, and the player that you'll be quizzed on is Desmond Trufant. So you'll be sticking with the mid-2000 defensive players. 2000s,
okay.
Excuse me. I'm not going to try to age Desmond Trufant because we all know commentators have tried aging him, calling him Marcus all those years. So, yeah, we got a fun matchup. And David Shealy cut quite a promo after he won, saying how Terry Fontenot still secretly works for the Saints. So he might become very fired up for this one.
Okay.
Working at Tampa Media might have changed him a little bit. He's a childhood Falcon fan, but working at Tampa Media, he's got takes now. You know, work on Tampa TV.
Yeah. Have to defend the team's honor, apparently.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Ball Terry, you got to defend him.
Yeah. Pretty much it. All the other people he threw under the bus are no longer with the team, like Arthur Smith and Desmond Trufant, so you don't have to worry about it. So,
okay, good. Yeah.
There you go. All right, that's it for us. Kevin will move on to the next round. Kevin, go ahead and plug some stuff that you're working on and where people can find, Falcoholic Live and all that stuff.
Yeah, we're in the midst of our roster preview series on Dirty Birds and Brews, Falcoholic Live. So we'll be doing a couple positions. I've got the first one with our newest contributor, Jamel Johnson. That's going to be coming out on Friday. So you can look for that there. We're going to be going through the whole thing. I'll have some guests. We'll get to all the positions by the time training camp rolls around. And then our final make or break players. You were on last week's, Aaron, for the offensive players. This week we're doing defense with Joe Patrick. So we'll be doing that on Wednesday. So yeah, you can check that out as well. And we'll be a little slower over the next 2 weeks just because this is the typical, everyone's, let's just relax and take a deep breath before the training camp comes around. So it'll be a little bit lighter, but we'll have plenty of stuff coming your way on the Falcoholic for sure.
Gina, what you working on?
I'm actually working on surviving one more day of work so that I can go on vacation. But when I'm back, and probably sometime around that second Monday in July, we'll be announcing a new kind of fun partnership on the Falcoholic. And so stay tuned for that. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about it. So I'm just going to leave you with that huge cliffhanger.
There you go.
Great tease. Yeah.
Great tease. Yes. That's what we in the industry call a great tease. Alan, anything you want to plug before we duck out of here?
Oh, all set. We're going to continue recording. We got 2 episodes next week. We have Joe Patrick against Will McFadden. They'll be quizzed on Calvin Ridley. And then we have, of course, Aaron, the matchup you've been waiting for weeks. We have Dave Choate against Daniel Flick, and we'll be talking Jonathan Babineau.
There you go. That's going to be the best episode. So,
it's going to be hard to, I can't, there's nothing we could do. I thought this was a very dramatic and closely matched trivia. So I don't know how much more you could ask for.
Yeah. But that's going to do it for us, guys. We will be back tomorrow on Locked On Falcons with some Locked On College hosts to talk about some of the day 3 draft picks. Yes, we're still talking about the draft at the end of June on Locked On Falcons. And of course, we got to stretch out this dead time of the summer as much as we can. So that is what is in store for you as your first listen. Make sure you subscribe, follow on YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And of course, check out Locked On Sports Today, Locked On Sports Atlanta. And of course, tonight is the Atlanta Hawks drafting someone number 1. And as of this recording, we don't know who that pick is. But of course, check out Locked On Hawks to get Brad Rowland, our guest on Keanu Neal episode earlier this week, reaction to that draft pick, because Brad knows his stuff. And so check that out. It's all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.